What is going on, my Modern Leadership Book Club people? What's going on, everybody? Amber, good morning. Good morning. Guys, we are diving into part number 2 of mastering your life through self-coaching. We're going to talk about all things self-sabotage. We're going to talk about identifying what you really want, really how to find the things that could potentially hold you back and create a plan to solve it in advance, and really make sure that your goals are not out of alignment of your core values. Super pumped up about today. I've been going over this book, even though it is my book, and just really highlighting some very key points and then some areas that I think I can expand on. Who knows, maybe I'll write an expansion version of this book. Kurt keeps asking me to write a book with him, so maybe that'll be something I do too. But really powerful parts of the actual framework that I'm going to be following or sharing with you guys today. And I really broke this book up in a couple different parts. I'm not sure if I talked about this in the beginning, but the first part is a framework that you could use to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success when it comes to being able to coach yourself and being able to create what you truly, truly want. The second part is like the art of leading yourself. This is section 2. We're going to be starting on that next week. And then section number 3 is like really earning the right to lead other people. And the framework is the most important piece of all, because if you don't have this, all of the other stuff is kind of like irrelevant, right? I like to have things where it's like a structure. This is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. So you can see where you're at in the equation and see which parts of it you can make adjustments for. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. Now, if you are not a part of our Modern Leadership Business Leadership Book Club, I will leave you the link inside of the description to get access to not only our free app, but our community, as well as make sure you don't miss any live calls. Amber, so pumped up to have you here on this live calls. I know with the time zones, it can be like really, really weird to really make sure that you're here. But super pumped up that we have people that are here live that I want to hear your takeaways as we're kind of going to, okay? So let's dive right in to chapter number 4, which is all about self-sabotage, okay? Now, when I was putting this together, I think it was this actual day that I was putting together this chapter. I was writing it inside of a coffee shop. I literally just self-sabotaged myself. And so it was kind of like this aha moment where it's like, man, like I guess I don't have to perfect this before I actually write the book. And I hope you understand that too. But it also got me to realize, like, no matter where you are in your situation and in your life, you're going to have things that pop up, and self-sabotage knows how to get you off track. It knows your version of sabotage, of getting you to not take the actions that you want to take. And it knows this because it has all of the past to kind of like dwell on, and it knows what has worked in the past and what hasn't worked. So I guess I really wanted to start this off with self-sabotage is something that, and I'll describe what it is in a second. I actually wrote a little bit of a description in terms of like what those words mean together. But in reality, it's just something that your brain knows and understands how to use your flavor of self-sabotage to get you to not take action. And it's going to continue to do that even if you and when you continue to level up. Even when you're coaching yourself, you're going to have moments where you can't necessarily coach yourself, which is when you have to have somebody on the outside to show you your blind spots. It's kind of like that you don't know what you don't know. And then once you have that information, then you can continue to coach yourself with it because you have that information, okay? Now, the way that the word sabotage is defined is to intentionally prevent the success of a plan or action. So sabotage is defined to intentionally prevent the success of a plan or action. The only problem with self-sabotage is, in this version, you're the one who's doing the sabotage. And it is kind of crazy how this happens, but our brain, like we talked about the first couple chapters, your brain is kind of like set up to get you to self-sabotage because it doesn't know if you're going to be safe if you lean into doing those uncomfortable things, if you lean into creating a business, if you lean into taking that leadership role, if you lean into doing something brand new that you've never done before, your brain doesn't know if you're going to be able to continue to succeed, continue to stay alive. And so it's there to program any way it can to get you to not take action. Michelle, good morning. Good morning. Yes, you're right, Michelle. We are the experts on ourselves. So one of the questions that I use, and when I found that my version of self-sabotage, I have many different versions, but one of them is that when I'm learning, when I'm like getting some information from somebody else, they're giving me some steps, some strategies or whatever, my brain tries to trick me into thinking that it doesn't apply to me. So one of the things that I have done over the years, and this is kind of like a little mini lesson within this book, is I find that when I ask myself and I find myself going, this doesn't really apply to me, I ask myself, well, what part of this does apply to me? And so when you can ask yourself really great questions when your sabotage comes up, and you can find the pieces, basically you're directing your brain into finding the pieces that do apply to you, you'll find them all the time. I literally worked in an MLM that is 98% women, and I would have people who were teaching about mom life and having kids and doing the things that they had to do. And I promise you, in every single one of those trainings, I was able to pull nuggets and wisdom out that helped me create my business today. If I had been like, there's 98% of the people in this room don't look like me, they're women and they're moms, and like I don't relate to the stories that are being shared here, it would have been very easy for me to get off track if my brain was convinced me like, you're in the wrong room. Like this doesn't apply to you. But instead, asking myself, how does this apply to me? Changed the game for me forever. And it also helped me develop a skill of being able to find like the wisdom, the pieces of the puzzle that maybe like if you look at the universal principles, you can actually pull out instead of thinking about it in a specific one-off situation. I can take that situation and move it into other areas because I started to ask myself this. So all that to say, as somebody comes to my front door, thank you, Alexa. All that to say is like sometimes what you'll find is when you find your flavor of self-sabotage and you do what we're going to talk about in this book, you could actually let it be your superpower now. It could be that thing that instead of it sabotaging you, you use it to help inspire and motivate not only yourself, but in others. And it is powerful when you can do a 180 like that. And Shelly, good morning. Good morning, Shelly. I don't think I said good morning to Shelly. So that is the part of self-sabotage where you could actually use this to your benefit. All right. So now here's the thing. I know I kind of talked about this a second ago, but there's a part that I highlighted here. It says, the goal is not to get yourself to never have limiting beliefs pop up again, because that's not possible. You're going to have these stories pop up, but the quicker you become aware of them, the quicker you can stop the cycle if you want to. So when you have things that come into your mind, when you have that story, which is what we talked about last section, and it gets you to take the actions of self-sabotage to get you off track, the goal is not to stop those from happening. The goal is to understand it, bring awareness to it, and then come up with a plan that's a little bit different next time so that when you have that thought again, when you have that story, you can go down an entirely different path. Julie, good morning. Good morning. Now, Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that is the biggest piece of self-sabotage, is understanding what you're doing. And when you become aware of it, now every time that situation comes up, every time that story comes up, you have an opportunity to go a different path. Not that you're going to, but that you have an opportunity to go down a different path, all right? Now, one of the things that we can do when it comes to self-sabotage is we can set ourselves up for failure using the words we speak. There is a video that I have. It's how leaders speak so others will listen. That one is like the video that's gotten the most views on YouTube because people like to know what it is that they're saying that get other people inspired. But one of the things that I snuck in that video is how you talk to yourself will also inspire or unmotivate you. And that's one of the things that we can do is we can realize some of the self-sabotage we have by listening to the words that we're saying. When we say things like but, or should, or I can't, or I'll try, those are all indicators that there's something holding us back from just going all in, taking ownership and doing it, right? So if you're like, I want to get really healthy, but I have kids, what you said is like that first part, it's totally eliminated after you said the word but, and now you're basically blaming an outside circumstance, having kids, as to why you can't be healthy, which sucks when you're putting that on your kids. But we do that to ourselves. We say that stuff sometimes because it allows us to remove not the ownership, or it removes the ownership, but not the blame per se, because we don't want to even blame ourselves for it. But it takes the power away from us because we're putting it onto something else. So be very cautious of your words, because those are very much an indicator of what's going on in here. And sometimes just listening to it out loud, you can go, oh, I must have a limiting belief around there. Let me lean in and try to help myself. All right. Now, one of the things that I'd like to bring up a lot is this idea of negative versus positive, like things that are in our lives or things that we see like on social media that is based off of like what's broken, what's wrong, and what's missing, versus seeing the things of like the hope for the future, right? The potential, abundance, what's going well, like what the possibilities are. Now, the reason why self-sabotage is very easy to go down is because your brain, like we said, it wants to keep you safe, right? Sorry, I need to turn this on. Do not disturb, because everybody's blowing up my phone. Your brain wants to keep you safe, right? And so when it wants to keep you safe, it's going to try and find anything in the outside world, the information that it needs to know to keep itself safe. And so when we think about like media, for example, they did this statistic where it's like 90% of all news media. Actually, I thought it was like 97% when I was reading the article, but like 90% of all media is negative because it gets your attention, right? And it's very easy for our brain to get the attention when we're doing self-sabotage because it like wants to find out what's broken, wrong, or missing, because it thinks if we focus on that, we'll be able to solve the problem. We'll be able to like not be, we'll be safe, right? But in reality, when we focus on the problem, we actually get more of the problem. So when it comes to self-sabotage, we have to make sure that when our brain is kind of like thinking about situations, and when we're in the moment, kind of like some kind of outside circumstance presents itself, right? Whether it's we send a message to somebody and they don't respond back, or we're putting it into a situation where we might have to step up and be a leader. Instead of thinking about what's broken, wrong, or missing, how you're not good enough, how everybody else is smarter than you, like that will naturally lead us down the path of self-sabotage. Instead, think about like how you are the right fit for this, how what you have in your experiences and your own personal situations that you've been in have actually prepared you for this specific situation, right? And when you think about that, it will get you to take actions that are in alignment with that versus being going down self-sabotage, right? Now, one of the ways that I have known myself and many others to self-sabotage is because we haven't taken the time, which is the next chapter, to talk about what we really want, all right? And what does success look like to you? Sometimes we self-sabotage by thinking about what other people want, what they want for us, what our parents want for us, what our followers want for us, what other people say is a great goal to follow, and it's not something that's really near and dear to our personal hearts. And when it's not near and dear to us, it's very easy to self-sabotage because it gets us out of alignment, not only from what we want, but our core values, which is going to be the next chapter of this, right? So really asking yourself, like, what does success look like to me? What do I really want? Will help you to set yourself up for success. Because if you actually sit down and ask yourself like what your values are, which I'll take you through a little exercise in a minute, but also what success looks like for you, you're less likely to self-sabotage because you've taken the time to realize how impactful this is going to be for you, for your family, and for the world, all right? One of the things I wrote in here is, have you ever gotten to the end of your day and you felt like you did a lot of busy work, but you don't feel satisfied? Doing core values is for you. If you struggle with saying no, this is also for you. If you're unsure how to figure out if something is worth your time and energy, this chapter is also for you. It really identifies what makes you tick, that will help you get all of those things done. So not only will it help you with your time and your energy when it comes to like saying no to other people, but it also help you leaning into your heart voice instead of your head. Now, when I think about setting goals, I always think about my core values first, all right? Now, the way that I do it in this book is core values first and then setting goals, and we'll go through that real quick. You can even do it the opposite, where you set goals and then you review your core values and you make sure your core values are in alignment with your goals, but I kind of like how I did it here, where you actually sit down and identify what your core values are. Now, there's an exercise that I do. It's not here in this book. It's actually in the workbook, where I use some things from your past when you felt most on point, when you felt most filled with purpose, when you most felt with joy, and you go back and you analyze that situation and you pull out your core values from those experiences. I also have a question that talks about like, what are things that people think are like your best characteristics and attributes that they come for you and ask you questions about this specific thing because you're like the expert in that area, right? So those kind of things we can help identify your core values. I'm not going to take you through this inside of the book, but if you get the workbook, which is inside of our free app, you're going to be able to work through this and identify your core values. Now, when it comes to taking these core values, you have to make sure they're in alignment with what you specifically want in the world, right? Now, I'm going to share my core values with you, and I'm going to show you how this was done wrong by me and how self-sabotage came up. And the second piece is I'm going to show you how I found these, and then what I did later in terms of like making it be a part of tied to my goal, and how I use that to really excel and be able to retire early from my career, right? So my core values are: I create epic family memories and connections by spending intentional time with my family daily while being unplugged to avoid distraction. My next one is: I prioritize my physical, mental, and emotional health, because when I do, everyone and everything benefits from it, including myself, my family, my career, my business. I motivate, inspire, and push others to identify their priorities now so they can show up for them and themselves, for those they truly value, for those that they truly value most before it's too late. And my fourth one is integrity. I live a life of integrity by being the real authentic version of myself. I do not give my personal power away to others. When I remain the real version of myself, I indirectly give others the permission to be themselves too. That one is one that I added in after this book, because your core values are this place where it kind of evolves. I don't think they change. I think it evolves as you get better at describing it, all right? Now, before I actually sat down and wrote those core values out, I still had them. I was just not aware of them. And so what I was doing is, at the time, I was trying to grow a business. I was also trying to become a sergeant on LAPD. I also was trying to become a good dad and a better father and a better husband. I also was trying to get my health and everything under alignment. And what I realized is that when I didn't have these to kind of flow my energy through them, I was giving way too much time to one specific thing in that moment. First, it was my career. I was giving it all to my career. Like literally, I was sleeping in the back of my truck in between getting off and to watch it like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd sleep for like an hour and a half, and then I'd go to court until around 2 o'clock. Then I'd go home, get about 2 hours of sleep, and then go back to work. And I was doing this like all over and over and over and over and over again, because I was like, I have to succeed over here. And because I didn't know my core values, I didn't have a system to flow it through. Of course, this was not helping me with my family. It definitely was not helping me with my physical and mental health. It was helping me in integrity, but it really wasn't helping me motivate and inspire other people, because I was just exhausted all the time. And so it didn't give me a filter to really get me to show up on a level that I wanted to. And as a matter of fact, I would get to the end of the day and I'm like, I don't know what, like I literally only slept 3 hours today, and I got 21 hours worth of work in taking action in, and I feel like I haven't done anything. And it's because my core values weren't in alignment with that. Then I sat down and I went through a training, the same one that I'm going to take you guys through inside of the workbook, to help me identify my core values. Then I took those core values and I sat down and I go, okay, let me identify what I really want. Talk to you guys in a minute about that, because there's a chapter in this book. And when I looked at those things that I really wanted, and I asked myself, how could I excel by also still being in alignment with my core values? It meant saying no to a lot of the overtime while I'm on duty, but really showing up how best I wanted to while I was there, but also being able to show up for my business and also being able to show up for my family and my own health. Let me tell you, I could find the answers. I didn't find them immediately, but I was willing to find them, because I was like, no, there's a different way. And I would have never be where I'm at right now if I not been willing to go, hey, there's a different way. I just don't have the answer. And then being willing to search for it. Okay. Now, there's some goal setting philosophies that I really want to dive into really, really quick, actually, probably just like 2 of them. These are ones that Josh first taught to me, and now I teach it to everybody that we have inside of our programs, because these are ones where like you have to understand how to set goals right. And then we're going to talk about like specific goals and how to set them. All right. Number 1 is goals were not meant to be reached. They were meant to stretch you. Okay. There's a false assumption that you have a goal because you want to achieve it, right? There's a thing that I put in here, a story that I put in here that is a legit true story. And I was having a coaching session with somebody, and their goal was like, I forget, it was like $60,000 or $65,000 a month. And they were currently like at 50 or 55,000. And I don't know those exact numbers, but I do remember that we had that conversation. I'm like, hey, goals were not meant to be reached. They were meant to stretch you. Meaning, if you have a goal of doing 60,000, like that's great. But what if you had a goal of doing like 90,000 or 100,000? Like, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you had a goal of hitting 90,000, what are some things you would do differently than if you just had a goal of hitting 60,000? And he was like, I would do something else entirely different. I'm like, okay, so then let's do that. Right. And I remember him coming back like 1 or 2 months later, and we were kind of talking about our goals and how far we had come. And I talked to him like, hey, like, tell me a little bit about your goal. And he kind of like looked depressed and upset. And he was like, well, I didn't hit my goal. I'm like, okay, so tell me what happened. And literally his goal was like 95,000. He made 92,000. And he was upset and frustrated. I'm like, a question, if you had set a goal for 60,000 and hit it with 65, would you have like loved that more than setting a goal of 95 and hitting 92? And he's like, well, I never thought of it that way. That's because when we set goals, if we set big goals, we have to think outside of our current reality and what we're currently doing. But if we set incremental goals, then that just means doing a little bit more tomorrow. The problem with that is that a little bit more turns into a little bit more, turns into a little bit more, and then it turns into overwhelm, which is what happened to me in my police career. And so instead of leaning into like, oh my God, I got to be able to hit my goals, remember that goals were not meant to be reached. They were meant to stretch you. You're going to think outside of your comfort zone, right? The reason why is because it will create something called urgency, all right? Urgency means I got to do something. This goal is so big, I can't like mess around, right? Have you ever had that where you had a goal of like making 3 or 4 sales a month and then nothing happens until the last week and then all of a sudden you pull it off, right? It creates urgency. Urgency is like, I got to do this right now. Like, I can't wait until the last of the month, right? When you have urgency, you create focus, which means your brain goes, okay, let's find the answers. We can't mess around here. It's time to lean in and find them. And when we have that level of focus, we will go out and we will find things that are on an entirely different level that it would have always been there, but we would have never been aware of them, all right? So really being able to set big goals is critical, and that's why we're going to dive into the breakdown session, which is what I do whenever I have a one-on-one client, whatever I teach inside of our life coach certification. We take them through what's called the breakdown session, all right? So you've identified your core values, right? You understand, you now have a filter to run your goals through and to make sure that you're not out of alignment of your core values. Otherwise, you're going to feel like I did all this stuff and I just feel like I'm not on track, right? So we go through the breakdown session. Now, the breakdown session, it has a series of different questions, and I gave you some of those questions inside of the workbook. We give our life coach team an entire book full of different questions, but these ones are the most powerful of all, and I'm going to read them to you so that you can get into the frame of mind that you need to be when you're setting your specific goals, right? The one is, if I could remove all the pain, all the obstacles, all the struggle, and sacrifice that it took to achieve your goal, what measurable things would you want to create this year? The reason why we ask it that way, and by the way, there are very specific reasons why we ask questions as life coaches in certain manners. So don't go changing up the words, because it will totally change the meaning of the entire sentence, and it'll totally get your head into your brain to go down the head path rather than your heart voice. The reason why we say this is because we want to know what you really want. And the only way we can know what you really want is if we say we remove all the things that would be painful for you. What would you want? That's how you know what you really want. Because if you're like, well, I want this, but I don't know, like I'm a guy, I'm older, I'm not smart enough, I don't look like everybody else. It's very easy for our head voice to jump in there and to like really minimize our goal. So if we can remove all that pain and that struggle and that obstacles, we can actually get into what we really want. And the second thing is, what about achieving that goal is important to you and meaningful to you, to your family, and to the world? These are three things that I do. I talk a lot about this because in business, a lot of our business owners are purpose and potential based heart voices, which means if you start talking about what kind of impact is this going to make on you, but also what kind of impact is it going to make on your family, and what kind of impact is it going to make in the world, it changes the voice. It changes it from head into heart, because now we're thinking about other people and the impact they're making, all right? Now, we have this thing inside of our life coach certification where we take people from this place of like, okay, I want you to go a year from now, and you've literally created this goal. You've done all the hard things. It's been painful, but you've now become the type of person that has this goal. Now, somebody else, your friend, is coming up to you and going, Mark, I want to be able to do that too. I want to be able to leave my police career. I want to be able to create like a multiple six-figure business, all right? What are the 2 to 3 things that you did with excellence that made that happen? The reason why I ask it this way is because when you get into this place of like, I already have it, it's very easy to give advice to someone else. It's like just like your heart voice, right? It's like your heart voice is so easy to get into other people's heart voice. It's hard to get into your own heart voice because it's going through your filter, right? But when you're giving advice to someone else, it's so much easier. So if you come from this place of like, I've already done it, you'll be amazed at how much wisdom you're actually able to pull out, all right? Now, there's a couple things that you want to do once you get to this point. We do what's called reverse engineering. So we think about what that goal is, right? We think about those 2 to 3 skills you did with excellence in order to make it happen. And then we reverse engineer it into the daily activities to take, right? Just having a goal and being super excited about it is not really going to like get you to take the daily actions because you have no idea what they are until you reverse engineer it. But once you reverse engineer it and you go, well, if I did this and this and this will be heading me in the direction. And I don't know if this is what I'm going to do for the next year, but I do know that for the next 3 months, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see like, and go through this exercise I take my one-on-one clients through, which is called start, stop, continue. Like if there's any adjustments that I need to make, if I need to do something else different, like I'm going to continue to evolve this every 3 months. And doing that will help me achieve my goals, but you have to have some way of tracking it, okay? Just coming up and reverse engineering it and not having a system or something that you can check off saying, I did it today, I didn't do it today, you're not going to be able to see if you improve. Just like all the things that we talk about inside of our life coach school, inside of modern leadership and everything, like shame, guilt, and humiliation is never anything you want to lead with. So when you're tracking it, when you have some type of tracker, whether it's an online tracker, something you write, like whatever is your jam, just make sure you're not beating yourself up if you're not doing it. It's just trying to teach you something. It's just trying to give you some advice of like where you can spend your time and attention, all right? So once you have those daily activities, find a way of tracking it. And the last piece when it comes to creating your goals is, yes, find a coach or find somebody to walk you through this process, go through the workbook that I did, come up with some type of way of tracking it, and then have some type of social cost or accountability that's a part of it. Now, most people don't love the word accountability. They just love how it gets them to show up, because oftentimes we will show up more for other people than we will show up for ourselves. And when we realize that, why wouldn't we use that for us, right? So this is like talking to people about what you're doing, giving them access to the tracker, seeing what they're doing, and you guys bouncing ideas back and forth, being accountability teams and partners and things like that, getting on with a one-on-one coach, right? The reason why I initially hired Josh, because I'm like, he's going to hold me to the fire, and I know that I'm going to do the things because I have to come to him every 2 weeks and tell him what I did. And it got me to just rise myself up to another level. So figuring out like how you can employ social cost into the mix to make it feel uncomfortable to get you to take action. I remember the whole, in Atomic Habits, James Clear was talking about like getting somebody else to meet you for a workout versus you going to the gym and working out by yourself. So if you're the kind of person where it's not normal for you to get up and go to the gym, and you want to go to the gym, then you find somebody else and you say, hey, how about we meet each other at the gym at this time? It's much harder to get up and go, oh man, let me call them and cancel, than it is to just you wake up by yourself and go, it's not a big deal, it's only me, right? And so having the social cost is so critically important, all right? All right, chapter number 7, all right? We're winding up this live down, but this one is like a really powerful one, and I want to spend some time here because these first little pieces had to do with like you preventing self-sabotage by making sure you understand and bring awareness to when your brain is doing it, but also number 2, making sure your goals and what you want in the world, you've actually figured that out, and you know what your values are so that you don't get yourself off track because your brain is trying to convince you it's not in alignment with your values. Once we have those things like kind of like set up, then we start to become the leader that others want to follow, all right? Now, this was a book that was written by my mentor, Josh Coates. It's called F Leadership, and it really dives into what he terms as the 4 M's. This is something that John Maxwell first taught him. He taught me, and it's something that I've used not only in my business, but also in my police career and even with my family, all right? This is how you start to become the type of leader other people want to follow, which reminds me, if you're not signed up for that training, the workshop that Josh and I are doing this Saturday, I'll leave you that link in the show notes as well. We're doing an actual live session where we're going to be taking people through the process of becoming the type of leader that others want to follow, but also we're going to dive into life coaching. We're going to dive into what we're talking about in this book, and then giving you some of the strategies on how to life coach other people, and of course, how to life coach yourself, and then also allowing you to practice it live on the call, all right? I'll leave you that information. It's modernleadership.us/life coaching. If it's still available, you'll see it there. It is completely free for right now, okay? All right, so let's get into these 4 M's, all right? So if we want to become the type of leader that other people want to follow, and we want to have a system in place to make sure that we're not giving our time and energy, which is like the most valuable things, away to people who don't deserve it, we need to have some type of system, right? And this is that system. It's the 4 M's, all right? It starts off in the beginning of the system with the first M, which is modeling, all right? It's you taking the actions that you want other people to see, all right? This is also very helpful when it comes to self-sabotage, because if you think about like modeling the behavior, you want to model the fact that maybe your brain is trying to get you off track, but in reality, you know the things you're going to do, so you're going to take action anyway. And when you're modeling that behavior for others, it gives you even more power so that the next time it comes up, you don't self-sabotage either, right? Now, modeling, like I said, is kind of like practicing what you preach, but one of the things that people have to do as well in the modeling phase is you have to make sure that people see you modeling that behavior. Now, we all love people who are down in the trenches. They're out there, they're willing to take the actions that they're asking of other people. But if you're doing it behind the scenes and nobody knows it, like you're a fitness coach and you're not working out, or at least showing or talking about or breadcrumbing that you're doing that, like people are less likely to follow you because they don't even know if you're doing it, right? But if you're out there taking action and you're telling them about it, you're hitting this first M, which is modeling. Now, the second piece, this is when we start getting into helping inspire other people, all right? This is called motivate. The second M is motivate. Now, when we say motivate, one of the things that Josh taught me was like you motivate with no strings attached. Meaning, if we're on social media, we're putting it out there and we're just like trying to be the light in times of darkness, trying to like help people, give them hope and all that great stuff that we're doing with our stuff. I mean, literally, I'm doing this with my YouTube channel right here. There's people who are like, I love this stuff. And there's people like, this is terrible. And do I care about it? I mean, I guess I kind of do, because I really do want to really help people. But also at the same time, I have to be unmoved by their opinions, because what would happen if like 1 or 2 people came on here and they're like, this is the worst thing ever, and then a bunch of other people loved it, and I stopped doing it because I kind of felt uncomfortable, or I gave their say more power over the people who loved it, right? And so when you think about motivating, it's you putting things out there. It's you getting people excited. It's you getting people inspired. It's you showing your ways, what you've been able to do. It's you using the power of your brain to like literally help people find a story that is related to their heart instead of their head. And you doing that without any strings attached. The reason why motivation is so important in this piece is because people will generally want to follow people who motivate and inspire them. There's all different kinds of people. Like, I don't want to say that you need to have energy to be a motivator. I don't want to say that you have to be perfect with your words as a motivator. There's plenty of people who don't have any of those things. But it's how you motivate based off of your personal strengths. And I talk about a few more other things inside of this book of like different ways that I motivate, whether it's like I recognize people. I even use this for my kids. So when I see my daughter or my son doing something that I want them to repeat, I'll recognize them for it. It's much more powerful than me leading with all the things that they could do better. If I lead with, hey, you know, you did this really, really well, this is a great job, they're more likely to continue doing that and stop doing the other thing, rather than the reverse, which is like taking things away and punishing. Like there's occasions when I have to take things away, but I find that it's so much more powerful when I actually empower them, inspire them by motivating them and recognizing them for the times that they do things really well, do things really well, that it just takes it to an entirely different level, all right? So recognizing people is one way that I motivate, and there's a bunch of other ways inside of the book, right? The third piece is mentoring, all right? Is mentoring. This is where, if you're in the motivation pool, that's where like the masses are kind of watching you. But then motivating is when you go up a step above that and you start mentoring people, whether it's one-on-ones or small groups. So Josh and I have a certification school. It's called the Push Coach Certification School. It's life and performance coaching that we help people not only use in their current business, whether it's in their MLM, or use it to create a new business, or just use it to actually coach themselves. We talk about that a lot. You're going to see a lot of things here on social media. You're going to see a lot of things on YouTube. You're going to hear me talk a lot about it. And this is the motivation pool. But in order to get into the mentor pool, you would take a step into actually getting mentored by me and Josh. And that is by being a part of our program. Now, this is something that we identify people based off of what we say, how they're showing up, the actions that they're taking. Based off of that, I will start a conversation with you, or you'll even just see something and go through the process and then sign up for something. That to me is you've earned the right to not only be in the motivation pool where I'm here to motivate you, but also to take that next step of like, how can I help mentor you, which is a much more time-intensive situation. Like you guys here on YouTube, I can do one video and I can literally have millions of views of people, right? Who are able to, and some people can be like, this is the greatest thing ever. And some people are like, this sucks, right? But from that, there's going to be certain people who rise to the top who are like, I love this and I want to take the next step. And they take the next step, and that's where I get to mentor them. I get to go into a small group. I get to go on Zoom and see like 15 squares and individually help them through situations rather than just trying to solve one big problem on this. I can get in even deeper. So having some way of identifying who those people are that are in that motivation pool that you're motivating, how they're kind of stepping up, and the basically like, I like to think of it as like, hey, there's somebody out there who's like trying to get my attention because they want more help. How do I identify who those people are? And when I do that, it helps me to reach out to people, to invite them to a workshop, or to help, invite them to fill out an application to work with me at Teresa. It's because like I have identified key things that they do that I know is the right time to reach out to them to get into the mentorship pool. And then I leave it up to them. Some people say they're not ready. Some people are ready, but mentoring is a lot more closer of a relationship. Now, where people run into a problem, which is where I did, and this is like when you're trying to mentor people who should only be in the motivation pool. Let me tell you. So I used to have a lot of times where I would get on, I would give free calls. I would give so much great information. They were like, this is awesome. I'm so fired up. Like, I'll see you next week. And then next week would come and I'd be like, okay, so tell me a little bit about what you did. And they're like, well, I didn't really do anything, but I think I just need another pep talk. I just need more of your energy. And this was happening over and over and over again. And so what I was doing is people who should be in the motivation pool, just watching me, just seeing my bigger content, they were actually getting more closer access to me, but they weren't taking any action on it. And then it kind of like made it just more and more and more and more of me like spinning in circles and me giving a lot of time and my energy away from my family, away from my business, away from my police career. And like they weren't actually showing up. And so you have to have a way of tracking when you're mentoring people that they are taking some sort of action. You don't have to track their results per se. Like we love to track results because we like to show people the results they're getting from life coaching, right? But I want to see their action because a lot of times in the beginning, people take a lot of action. They don't get a lot of results. That was me for a long time, taking a ton of action, not getting a lot of results. And now it's kind of like catching up. So I don't track it just based off of results. I track it based off of their actions. And when I identify like, hey, these are the actions that you take to continue to get mentored by me, and they keep showing up and they keep taking those actions, they continue to have that ability of being mentored. And if they're not, I'm not in the business of just accepting people's money without helping them. If they're just getting excited and they're not showing up, they're not taking an action, I actually won't continue with that mentorship, even if they're paying me, because it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right in the integrity where I'm like, I'm showing up. I want you to have like exponential results. But if you're not getting yourself to take any action and we're not working through anything, like this relationship is not, doesn't feel like it's in integrity with me. And so I would end it. So finding a way of doing those things in mentoring where you're identifying people who are kind of like sticking out above the crowd when it comes to motivating, and then finding a way of tracking it to make sure that they're continuing and they should continue to get your time and your energy is critical. I generally like will put in between motivation and the mentor, it costs money to be mentored. Like it's not free. I used to do it for free. I mean, I guess I kind of do it for free when it comes to my family, but that is a step that like in order for my time and my energy, not only for me to be valuable, but for you to make it valuable, we have to do that. Because if it's free, you're not going to value it. I do the same thing. If I get a free one-on-one, it's way different than if I actually paid $15,000 for it. Because I'm like, I got to get everything I possibly can out of this call and this group and this team. And I don't do that if it's for free. All right. So make sure that if you're going to have these steps and you're not running a charity, that you have some type of way of people like actually paying for your mentorship. All right. And the last step of this is multiplying. This one's super easy to describe. And that is like, if you do a lot of the other steps, right? You're modeling, you're taking the actions you're expecting of others and you're making it visible. You're motivating, you're going out there despite any negative comments or whatever, you're being the light when people need you the most. You're sharing, you're inspiring, you're motivating. And then people start to rise up to the top. You see them starting to take action. You see them not just watching your stuff, but they're actually following you. They're actually watching your videos. They're actually taking action. They're like, guess what just happened last week when I did this thing with my family? This was a game changer for me. Then you take them to the next step, which is mentoring. And mentoring is you working closer, giving them more of your time, whether it's one-on-one or a very small group. And by doing those things, you effectively multiply, because now at multiply, you teach them everything you did to get there. Now, when I say multiply, I didn't say duplicate, because duplicate would kind of like give the false impression that they have to be Mark 2.0. You can't be Mark, but you can be you. And so when you think about this, like I'm not Josh, but I could be Mark, and I could like literally take some of the skills that he's learned and what he's taught me and use them for myself, make some tweaks based off of my strengths and be able to help even more people. That's truly where we become a leader of leaders, right? Can you imagine what it would be like if all we did was we were only able to like lead followers? Like what happens when we actually get to lead other leaders? We get to teach them a system. They get to go out and create the system and make the tweaks based off of what they want and what they want to be able to create and the impact that they can make. I mean, that's the reason why MLMs were started, right? It's because we take this individual thing and now we make it this group kind of atmosphere where we're empowering other people to go out there and do it. And it doesn't just all depend on us. And that's really the power of these 4 M's, all right? Now, quick recap, all right? So we talked about self-sabotage, and being aware is the first step of the puzzle. There you go. Then we started to talk about like your core values, because sometimes we will get ourselves to sabotage if we're not living within our core values because we haven't identified them. The third part, our third chapter that we talked about today, which was chapter number 6, was the breakdown session, where you reverse engineer what you truly want and make sure that it's in alignment with your goals. And the last one is, once you've actually had this breakdown session, you've got to put together the energy and effort in order to go out there and start creating these goals. That's why you have to have a structure like the 4 M's. You put that in place to make sure that you're modeling the behavior first, right? That you're motivating the masses, you're getting them excited about what it is, whether it's your business or whatever it is you're doing. or wanting to teach on. I mean, if you're on YouTube, it's a little bit different, but it's still the same. You're still multiplying here, right? I mean, even like, for example, when you mentor, there's like this ability of having channel memberships, which we'll be having very shortly here on Modern Leadership, but it's like you getting in closer with the community. You getting more of a one-on-one or small group contact. You getting more of like, for me, it's going to be one live call with me where you get to ask me any questions that you want. This is a smaller community that we're going to be creating on YouTube. It's the same thing. It's those same steps. And then of course, step number 4 is multiplying. Like, how can you teach other people exactly what you're doing? Don't hold anything back. Don't think that they're going to be able to do exactly what you're doing, because they're not, right? But giving them all the steps, all the strategies, all the tools they possibly can, so they can go out there and empower people and create other leaders. And that's really what a powerful team looks like, is the team of leaders who are out there inspiring and then sharing their success, their stories, their failures, their struggles, so they can get better and better and better as a team. So that is chapters 4 through 7 today. We dove into mastering your life through self-coaching. Now, before we leave, a couple things. Number 1 is, don't forget, we are picking up the next book, which is Extreme Ownership, all right? We have one more book breakdown of mastering your life through self-coaching, all right? It's going to be next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. I am going to be out of town, so you're going to see that it's not necessarily going to be 100% live, but it will be available at that time for anybody who wants to log in, who wants to like comment back and forth. I always love when you guys have those kind of like takeaways. And I'll end with that. Like, I do want to hear, what is your biggest takeaway from today's call? I want to hear it inside of the comments before we leave. But definitely pick up Extreme Ownership too. I'll leave you that link in the show notes to make sure you get the right one. And we're going to be starting with that book. I'm going to actually start on next Monday with reading it, because obviously I finished reading this book, but we still have like 3 more chapters that I'm going to dive into next Thursday. But I also want you to have that book ready to go, because Extreme Ownership is going to be extremely powerful. All right. All right. Before we go, I do want to hear, what was everybody's key takeaways from today's lessons? What was your key takeaways? And I will sit here and wait to hear from everyone. By the way, thank you so much, Amber and Shelly and Michelle and Julie, for being here. Good morning, Julie. Good morning. Okay, so what is your biggest takeaways from the second part of Mastering Your Life Self-Coaching? Oh, and I also put up this link for you guys, modernleadership.us/life coaching. If you are not signed up, head to that one, modernleadership.us/life coaching. We're actually going to teach you some life coaching principles. And literally, normally people would pay for this. We're actually going to give you an opportunity to practice it, which is extremely powerful. You don't have to practice it if you don't want to, but you'll still be able to see other people practice it. It's a game changer when you have this tool. And it doesn't matter if you have a business or not. This is a powerful tool, all right? Julie says, one of the takeaways is not being swayed by the opinions of others. So good, 100%. And remember that how we get ourselves to not be swayed by the opinions of others is the stories that we tell ourselves. That was chapter number 3, I think. That is the most important chapter probably in the entire book, because our stories, what we have in here, can literally get us to think about something in one way or completely think about it entirely different, right? Like, they're entitled to their own opinions, right? It's okay that they have an opinion that doesn't match up with mine. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with either of us. It's just we're entitled to our own opinions. Having a story like that might help you get through those specific moments when somebody does make a statement like that. But if you have any kind of inkling of like, maybe they're right, maybe I was too strong, maybe it was like, yes, you can do a little bit of like examining and really like looking and reflecting, but not in a way that's like there's something wrong with you or you did or said something wrong. It was just more of like, what is this trying to teach me, rather than using shame, guilt, or humiliation. But remember, it's always those stories that allows you to be unmoved by the opinions of others. The 4 M's, break leadership into simple steps. Yes, Michelle. I like to keep things as simple as possible. As a matter of fact, the 4 M's is how I run all of my group programs. All of my group programs, all of them flow through that. Modeling, am I doing what I'm telling them to do, right? Am I motivating people, like getting them talking about my business? Am I talking about what I can do? Am I talking about our life coach certification? Number 3 is, am I mentoring? Am I getting really close? Am I helping them through their specific problems? Because here's the thing, guys. Like, if I help people and I describe it as a big problem, it's a lot different than actually helping you with your specific problem, even though it applies. Remember, our brains can trick us into going, oh, this doesn't apply to me. And if you can't get good at being able to go in there and find the principles, that's what you have to do is find somebody who can help you with those principles. And then the fourth piece is multiplying, which I hope I'm doing into every single one of you guys. Shelly also said, the forum is such a good reminder. We need to model behavior before we want others to take action. Yeah, that's the one question that I ask even in my one-on-one clients when they're like, I just want to get my kids to do this. I just want to get my team to do this. I want to get. And I'm like, okay, let's start off. Step number one, are you modeling the behavior? Sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's like, well, no, like I'm at this level. And I'm like, that's not going to work, my friend. That's not going to work. Are you modeling the behavior? Sometimes they're like, yes. I'm like, is it visible? Do they see it? Or do they see it? Like, or do you do all those things before the kids wake up? And you're like, man, I just wish my kids would do this, but they don't actually see you do it. And you don't talk about it and you don't bring it up at the table. So it's always about like, okay, are you doing it? And are you making it visible? And when I ask those two questions, there's always something that comes up that goes, okay, I can take ownership of this part. And is it simply you taking action? Is that going to make everybody else take action? Absolutely not. Remember, they have their own push methods that are going on. But the greatest way that you can influence people is starting off by you taking the actions yourself. All right. All right, guys. Great job. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for being on live, so much for making this channel and this community such an important thing, not only in my life, but in like other people's lives, being able to spread this message. I appreciate it. And then of course, if you have anybody who you think would be benefited by being a part of this business leadership book club, send them to modernleadership.us/book club. Love to have them. I think we have 648 people who are actually inside of the club, which is super exciting. But I appreciate you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you guys very, very soon. Actually seeing you next Thursday. All right. All right. You guys have a great weekend and I'll see you soon. All right. All right. Bye.